One of my favorite things is the Harmon documentary, and what I love in it, and I think about this scene every single time I'm on a deadline and late, is that scene where they're like asking you for more pages, and it's that night where you're like, and you've put it off so much, but you also know about yourself that until it gets to that like drop deadline, like that's when the best is going to come out of you, because it has to. So is there some of that on stage where you know that in this moment of the pressure of having to do it, you are going to be able to like you create the scenario for which your mind like works? Because I think every time I'm like you in that moment, as close as I can probably get, to where I'm like, this has to be done right now. And then in the next 3 hours, I'll do 10 times as many pages as I would have done in the last 2 weeks had I really sat down.
I mean, I'm going to mitigate that for the kids listening who I don't want to imitate bad habits.
Me either. I try, but I still
think
end up
what you're describing is us having the bad habit of getting to the place that we need to be in order to write by force.
Yeah.
Like using deadlines and emergency and crisis and adrenaline as a crutch to get us to the zone that theoretically you should be able to be in the day after you get the job, 3 months before the deadline, which is to just, this doesn't matter. Right. Like, so it's like that. If you are waiting until the last minute and until the pressure is crushing you until your career is at stake, and now you're either going to prove to be a hack or a genius and all that stuff, that is a sign that you do need to do some retooling about your relationship with your work. I think you're taking yourself a little too seriously, and this is coming from, I'm not talking down to anyone listening because I'm the master of it. I think, but it's like, being in therapy, what I've come to realize is that's what we're doing. We're because we want to not admit that it's not all about us. We want to keep being narcissistic, but at the same time, we want to be lazy. Frankly, we don't want to do anything that's that difficult. But and so
you have to raise the stakes earlier for yourself, or just say, or not even, or just be like, get it out.
Lower the stakes,
or just be like, get it out. That's when we're like,
just understand that that you sitting at a keyboard typing is not the scene in Amadeus or any scene in Amadeus or any scene in anything.
Right.
Like, you are not doing anything by typing at a keyboard. Even
like a scene in the video Falco.
It's barely part of the process. It's like when is a spider doing the thing that makes his web, or hers, what makes their web right? Is it the silk coming out of the butt? Is it what the spider ate? Is it the place that the spider chose to make the web? And then we walk through shitty spider webs that have been abandoned by spiders 10 times
cobwebs
a year because
cobwebs and spider webs are different.
Well,
cobwebs are like means that you haven't hung out there in a while. Spider webs mean that like construction's happening in terms of like the spider is building something. Now.
That's not, to my knowledge, that's not actually true. Most spider webs that you walk through are abandoned because the spider was like, gave it a shot, figured halfway through that it wasn't working and bailed. Or they finished a web and it was in such a shitty place that it kind of fell apart.
Right.
They do a lot of trial and error, but most importantly, it's a biological process. It's essentially like taking a shit. And
I got to get this web out of me.
I was just talking to this, and exactly, and until you really feel I got to get this web out of me, then it's not going to come out, which is why we then make the mistake of justifying this bad work ethic where we're like, oh, well, it's part of your process. You just have to wait till the last minute. No, you have to wait till the last minute if you want for it to need to happen in a way that doesn't involve you changing your psychology.
Yeah, totally.
The other alternative is you can just start taking what you do less seriously and have it be like, oh, maybe a fly will fall into this. Whether it does or doesn't, it's only a piece of garbage that's going to go away after a while.
By the way, taking it less seriously, I relate to that big time in terms of going up and doing stand-up shows. Okay, there are some shows that, for whatever reason, wherever they are, the show itself, you start to like feel more pressure in those moments. The shows that we have the most fun on is when we just go up and we're like, fuck it. Let's just, who cares? This is, you sort of, that pressure. Same with auditioning for things. Whenever you're like, fuck it, don't want it so badly, don't take it so seriously. You always do your best work. We always did.
The idea that it's your job to do well That's the thing that we don't realize. That's the devil's best trick, because if it's your job to do well, then as a person that enjoys quality things, when you go home at night, do you watch the jokes and the comics and the TV shows and read the comic books and watch the movies of the people that are doing it worse than you think you can do it? Or do you like to watch the ones where you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I would have come up with that. So we generally would prefer to watch things that are better than what we can do. So when we consider it our job to do better than we can do,
it's like an impossible goal.
Then you don't do anything because you're waiting for you to come up with something that you don't come up with. Right. By contrast, if you simply shit it out and consider it your job to do it wrong, do what you would do, and in fact embrace the idea that what you are going to do is going to suck, then that's more like what chefs do, carpenters do, sculptors. They don't sit there and like scrutinize a boulder with a chisel in their hand, and then their first like dink 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 is I learned about sculpting from the Flintstones. But you know, generally speaking, people take lumps of shit, throw it on a table, and they refine it. A lot of times there's collaboration involved. There's people helping you. A lot of times you're doing most of the work. It's just sitting there. I was just telling this to my girlfriend, who's like torturing herself, like, oh, I don't have these scripts done when I'm supposed to have them done and all this stuff. I'm like, are you aware of the process of the last ones that you did? Like,
you got to open the laptop on stage and just start typing. That's what you got to do.
And then let it sit and then do another draft.
Brian Grazer said, and I cannot forget this, it doesn't have to be good. It just has to exist. And like when he wrote Night Shift, or that movie, that was what Lou Wasserman, I think, had taught him, was just that it doesn't have to be good. It just has to exist. And then by your saying of like, just get with that lump of clay or whatever, some things will be good, but don't worry about that. Just make it exist.
Well, because we're all critics. We're all so good at recognizing what's shitty about something and how we fix it. And then we're all so bad at making something. So just make something bad and then criticize it until it's kind of good.
That's right.